Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Class 3 of the Academy of Colour. I'm Leann Chivers here at Crafters Companion, and I'm going to be with you for the next 2 hours where we go through all of the fabulous educational content that you will have received with your first and very exciting auto ship, which covers portraits from the fabulous Academy of Colour. I'm really excited to be here. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours. We're going to take our time, learn some new tips and tricks. And of course, those of you who have received your first auto ship over there in the US of A, then you are watching us live and you are welcome to send in your comments on Facebook and YouTube, wherever it is you're watching YouTube, I do believe it is. Put your comments on there. We've got a whole team talking to me in my ear. They'll pass those comments on, all your questions, and I'll endeavour to answer them for you as we go through the 2 hours. Of course, if you're watching this at a later date because you couldn't join us live, still very, very warm welcome to you too. And obviously, I think you get the bonus because you can stop me when I'm waffling on and fast forward me when you don't want to hear all of the little anecdotes that I'm sharing with you. So first things first, let's just dive right in, should we not, and talk about what it is that we've got in this fabulous new first auto ship, Academy of Colour portraits. So when you get it home, you get your beautiful box, which looks like this. And then what you're going to do is take off the sleeve. And I know you will have already dived in. You will not have left this box fresh for the unveiling on this 2-hour session that we've got. And I don't blame you, neither would I. When you open it up, and I love this because look what you've got here. Your colouring journey continues. Isn't that fabulous? I just love that so much. The first box had your colouring journey starts here, and you will get your colouring journey continues on the next 4, and the last one will be you've completed, which is fabulous. So open it up. Box works in exactly the same way. You've got this beautiful magnetic closure, which you will know because you've got it at home. Open it up, and then you have your card with the web address to where you get to this education, and you've got your new array of markers, and what you've got in here are markers specific to colouring portraits. So the double-ended markers in black are your alcohol markers, and the 3 at this end are your watercolour markers. You then remove this velvet tray, and underneath here you've got your stamp storage panel. You've got all of the stamps that we're going to be using mounted onto its acetate sheet. You've got your alcohol card and your watercolour card in there, which I've already got pre-stamped, so you don't need that, but I'm going to take these out and show you where you would put them. The little tray can go back in, and you can just keep that to one side when you're working on it. That's what I'm going to do. So I've got my binder, and I just want to show you how I'm putting my binder together because I think that would be nice for you to see. We get lots of questions about that in the group, and I thought, let me show you what I'm doing when I get my first auto ship home. So this is the binder that came with the initial launch, and you can see there is all of my content that I used for the first 2 classes that we went through together. And you can see that I've got a little tab here which says portraits, and that's for auto ship 1, which is the one we're looking at now, portraits. So I'll move into there. I've already put my plastic pocket where it should be. I'm then taking my little binder insert, my little stamp panel insert, popping it into my binder. There we go. Closing that up. And then what I like to do is take the reverse acetate sheet off and pop that in its entirety onto my stamp panel. I don't need this acetate sheet anymore, but they're handy if you want to use them as a little paint palette or something like that. The choice is yours. When I want to use one of these stamps, what I'll do is take it off here, peel it off the back, and then pop it back down. And what that does is make sure that I keep this nice printed piece, and then I can see clearly the images I've got. The other way to do it, if you don't want to do it like I do, is to remove them from that sheet completely and just pop them straight on to the stamp panel. If you don't want to keep the acetate, you can do this, of course. Oh, Connie's been in touch to say she loves having everything organised in the binder because organisation is the key to success. I could not agree with you more, Connie, and that's why we put it together this way. And it's wonderful to hear that you are appreciating that as much as we'd hoped you all would. So just organise them around a little bit. You'll find that you'll get space. There we go. And you can keep all of your stamps just directly onto that stamp panel. That's what it's created for, if you'd prefer. And of course, once you've inked them up once or twice, you'll be able to see the design a little more, so you don't have to keep that acetate if you don't want to. But you'll see from previous classes, I do like to do that. It's just my preferred way. You choose whichever way works best for you. So once you've loaded them into your binder, you're good to go. What I like to do when I'm working on something specifically is not have my binder out all the time, but just remove the panel that I'm working with and put the binder away so that it's not taking too much space on my desktop, and then pop the stamp panel back in there when I'm done. So that just gets moved to the side. And that can be, oh, a little chair took away with us, then it took us on a full 360 degrees. Little journey that. Oh, Liam, he said, colouring will make you spin. You're absolutely right, Liam, it will. Okay, so I've shown you how to do that. We can get straight on with it. But first things first, I want to just titillate a little bit and show you some of the beautiful examples here. Now, this is that stamp panel all coloured in, and you can see how beautiful the representations are on there. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can see a real variety of skin tone that we've got, and we're going to cover that in this session, colouring different types and intensities and colours of skin tone, which I think is a great thing to do, and also for hair. And then of course you can see we've got our sassy lady here with her skin tone, and then I wanted to give you something else with lots of folds in the dresses so you can continue to practice the skills that you learned in your first alcohol colouring class. So I thought that would be good. These are the colours that you're getting. So you can see you've got a really nice array of colours in here for, again, a variety of skin and hair tones, both in the alcohol and in the watercolour. So they're the colours coloured out for you. These charts are available to download on the Academy of Colour website if you want to, so that you can colour this reference in yourself and keep that to keep yourself organised. So you just go along and download that for free, colour it in as I have done here. And then what we've done here is just colour some different examples so you can see what they look like. So here's some examples of those coloured in alcohol, which is what we're going to be looking at. And here's the same but done watercolour. And you can see you get a much more artistic feel, the difference between the watercolour and the alcohol colouring. That's much more flat and almost printed, and then you've got this much more loose artistic look and feel with watercolour. So that's what we're going to be doing, guys, for the next couple of hours, which I hope you're excited for. I know I certainly am. I'm going to have to take those bracelets off in a minute because I'm going to clank them on this glass mat, and it's going to annoy me by the end of 2 hours, and I've no doubt annoy you too. So first thing we're going to do, oh, and I must just mention, it's an important point I almost forgot. So these are the colours that you've got in your portrait, your new portrait box. I'm going to show you how to colour some skin and hair using only the colours in your portrait box first, quickly. But then I'll be dipping back into the pens that came in your big initial launch. So all of those pens. So you'll need those at hand too. You'll need your alcohol markers from the main big box, and your watercolour markers and your brushes. So you will be dipping back into those too. But I did want to show you how to only use the pens in the box if that's what you want to do. I'm hearing that there is so much excitement on our YouTube channel when you're watching us live, and I'm really happy to hear that because I really do look forward very, very much to doing these little sessions for you. I have the best time. Now I'm just looking for some scrap paper. I'm circling round. I'm going to ask our magic people in the sky if I could have a wodge of Nina, a little wodge, because I was just about to do the thing that I tell you all never ever to do, and I can't not practice what I preach, guys. So let's have a chat for a couple of minutes while we're getting that card for me. Is there any extra questions in the YouTube or little comments that anybody's got for me that I can answer? Blonde, okay. So we've got a couple of specific requests about hair colours, red and yellow, not blonde. Okay. That's great. And you know what? We've got a few people, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Liam. We've got a few people advising others and how they're really appreciating to just sit and watch this and not try to colour along with me, absorb what I'm saying, take it all in, then go back and watch the recording again at your own pace and take it in baby steps. And I think that would be my advice to you. Of course, you can colour along with me if you want to, or, you know, do your own thing. It's your time to do with as you wish. But I do think that 98% of everybody who's watching these are enjoying just watching it and then going back and colouring later, which I think is a really good plan. Okay, I've got my little pile of scrap paper now so we can get on with the job. Now, the other thing that I've had feedback from you in abundance in our Facebook group, and let me just mention the Facebook group actually while we're here. There is an Academy of Colour Facebook group which has well over 3,000 members in there now. And that is a group of like-minded people on this Academy of Colour journey with you. And you've got myself and Sarah and a whole host of other ambassadors and colouring experts in there to help and support you on your journey. So your fellow students are there to help, and we're there to help with feedback and comments. So please, oh, it's got 4,000 members. Wow, that is fantastic. So 4,000 like-minded people in a group that is dedicated to support and confidence and colouring expertise on your journey. So if you haven't joined that, please do go and join, because you will get so much out of that group. Right, now the feedback I've had in that group is that you love my little handwritten notes. So I do myself little notes before each of the classes to remind myself what I'm going to be demonstrating and to remind myself which pens I've used. So I've been getting those photographed and putting them up on the website for you, and you absolutely love them. So I've done the same for the portraits class. And then I like to outdo myself every now and again. So now we've done this, which I think you're going to really love. So for the demonstrations that I'm showing you today, we've got one of these little cheat sheets that we're going to get photographed and put on the website for you. And you can see here for this example, using the markers that only come in the portrait box, we've got 3 steps for the hair and 3 steps for the skin. So with those 3 steps, you will achieve this result. And I think to be on your beginning journey, to have it broken down into some nice, simple steps like that, where you know doing those 3 things you're going to get this, really just make it very easy and accessible, and it will allow you to build your confidence. So I'm going to be referring back to those quite a bit during this next couple of hours. And for every demonstration I do for you today, there is one of those, and they will be uploaded to the website for you. If ever there's anything else that you would find helpful, do let me know, because it's your feedback that helps me then change and improve these little teaching aids. And really what I want to do is just give you as much as you need to give you the confidence to grow on your colouring journey. So do let me know. I'm always very, very happy to hear for that feedback. Okay, so first things first, we're going to do the skin here. And we're using only the pens from the portrait box that you've just received as your authorship one. This has been stamped on either the alcohol card that comes in your box or on some Nina or some Spectrum Noir premium marker card. And I've stamped it with our Finesse alcohol proof Noir Black ink pad. If you don't have this, there's recommendation on our Academy of Colour website for other ink pads that you can use while these are coming back in stock. So once that's done, we're ready to start colouring. So first step for the skin is to use FS6 and lay down the base colour. That's what I've told myself there. So that's what we're going to do. So we're taking FS6, which is this cream colour. So we need I'm going to look for the colours I need. FS6 and FS8, which is here. So that's good. Either end of the pen. And then pick up FS8 from the glass. Oh, so just 2 colours for the... Oh, hang on. FS4. That's for this. That's for that. Remembering what I've done. FS4 and FS6 to add colour at the cheeks. Yeah. FS4 on lips. Great. I've remembered. So I need these 2 pens from my portrait collection. I must just say, guys, this was all done before I went and had a week's holiday in Crete. So I'm having to remind, only 2 days back. So I'm having to remind myself what happened before I've spent a week drinking cocktails in Crete. So I think you'll forgive me. Liam's just said with my lovely holiday glow. I mean, some of it's holiday glow, a lot of it's Laura Geller. Tahitian glow, bronze body bake, and you in the US, you know, if you'll know, I'm sure. Let us know in the comments. I'd be interested. Do you also love Laura Geller as much as me? Let me know. She's marvellous. Oh, so we're being asked, do you have to do anything to your stamps before you use them the first time? No. You can prep them if you want to, and you can just do that with a bit of rub and alcohol. You can stamp them with a watermark ink pad or a Versamark ink pad if you want to prime. Some people like to. I never do that. All I do is ink it up with the black ink, stamp 3 or 4, which kind of primes it anyway, and then the 5th one, and I never have to do that again. Once you've done that, once you've done it. So that's all I do with my stamps. Okay, so we're starting with FS6 to lay down the base colour, and so we're just going to take off the lid and with FS6 lay down some base colour on the skin. Now you don't need to worry about saturating it too much. All we're doing is getting that base layer down there and making sure we've got a nice coverage. And I am going to preserve my highlight in a couple of places, which would be the tip of the nose and just on the cheekbone there and on her brow bone. So I can go under the eye, but you can see there the cheek, which would be chubby and forward, the tip of the nose, which would be forward, and her brow bone, which would be forward, I've left to preserve my highlight. So that was really quick and easy. And then we'll do her shoulders and neck as well at the same time. So you see, all I've done there is very quickly swipe over some base colour. Nothing very much to that at all. The next thing we're going to do is take FS8, which is the opposite end of the pen, and that's our eggshell colour. And can I just also mention, while we're talking, everybody, the reason we've put on here FS6 and the names is because then, so you can, once your pens start to come to the end of their life and you want to replace with other pens, you will be able to find eggshell and FS8 and cream and FS6 in our other marker collections like Illustrator, Tri-Blend, Brush, etc, etc. And some of them have just the numbers, some of them have the number and the name, some of them only have the name. So I've included both on these pens so you can go and find them in whichever other range that you would want to, just to make it easy for you. So we're taking eggshell FS8, and with eggshell FS8 what we'll now do is going to add in where there would be shade for definition. Now remember, if you can from the first class, shade is going to be wherever there's a shadow being cast. So that's going to be under her hairline there and under the little bit of fringe here on her cheek. We'd also have a little bit here coming round her hairline, down where it is there. There would be a little bit of a shadow here by her ear. There'll definitely be a shadow under her chin. And there will be a shadow here at the top of her shoulder where the hair is casting a shadow down there. There will be a little shadow under here from her nose. And there will be a little bit of a shadow here from her brow bone. And you can see just by doing that, there's be a shadow here from her hair and a tiny bit there. Just by even doing that and mapping it out, that face immediately starts to come to life. I haven't even done any blending. Okay, so a question coming in, how do you know where to leave it white for the highlight? So white for the highlight is anything that is far forward. So if we talk about my face, anything that is further forward catches the light first, so therefore it's lighter. So the furthest forward point on my face is my nose. So the tip of your nose would be white. Your cheeks are, mine are, yours might not be, chubbier, so further forward than maybe like my eye socket and this piece here, so therefore they would catch the light. And then if you think about your brow, how that comes in and down, your brow bone is going to catch the light before the inside of your eye socket and back here. So if you just think about anything that's forward on your face, those are the areas that you would leave white to preserve a highlight. And then anything that needs shade would be anything that is being overcast. So my hair will be casting a shadow where it falls here. There'll be a shadow, you can see it under my neck for where my chin is cast. So anything that's underneath, when you block the light, you cause a shadow. So anything that you want to be further back is darker. Anything you want to be further forward is lighter. It's a little bit like applying your eye makeup when you're an older lady and they start to get hooded. This is what I have to do now. So because I want my eyelid to come forward, it's light, and because I want this hooded bit to go back, it's dark. So if you think about it like that, that's what we're doing. So dark knocks it back, light brings it forward. I hope that helps. Right now, so we've done that and we've added in our little bits of shade. I'm going to go delving in my first box because I want my palette. Because I'm going to do a little bit of palette blending now. So this is the palette that came in your first box, remember. Now what I'm going to do is put FS8 onto my blending palette. So there's a little bit of FS8 on my blending palette. Remember we did some palette blending in the first lessons, and now I'm going to take FS6 and pick that up. So I'm mixing a mid shade between the two colours I've already used on this face, and then by doing that, what that'll let me do is blend that out by just picking a little bit, and it gets that lovely, soft, smooth blend. I pick up a little bit, and by picking up the little bit, I mix a mid-tone, and that just allows me to soften the lines that I've put down where I put my shade. You see, I'm just picking up a little bit and then going back into where the area is lighter. It's smoothing out those areas. I'm getting a lovely soft blend still, and I'm still preserving my highlight just now because I want those to be the lighter areas. And that already starts to look like a really beautiful, smoothly blended skin tone where you've got your light and your shade in the right places. So I think sometimes we worry too much about making this absolutely perfect and blended, and being a little bit scared by faces and hair, thinking, oh my word, I'll never be able to do that, I'll get the shade in the right place. Hopefully you can see there, if I hadn't been chatting in between, in a matter of 30 seconds, we're starting to get a face that looks really quite beautiful. So I've got that coloured in to that point now, and what I'm going to do now is add in my cheeks and lips. So for my cheeks, I'm going to be using my FS4 and FS6. So I've got FS4 here, blush, and I've got my FS6, which is in this other marker here, FS6 cream. So FS4, the peachy tone, is going, lovely pinky blush, is going on my palette. And then my FS6, which is my lightest colour here, is going to pick up that peachy tone, and I'm going to brush that in to chisel in a cheek, which you can see I'm doing there. Then I'm going to clean my brush, so I've only got the light colour, and then just smooth blend that out. And that's given me that lovely look on her face. Now remember, some of these little patches that you might see that are a little bit darker are where the ink is wetter, and they will even out when you give it time. So when you put your alcohol ink on and it's still wet, don't think that you haven't blended that very well, just leave it to dry. The alcohol that carries the colour will evaporate at different speeds, depending on how much ink you've got on your page. So you need to leave that to evaporate fully and dry fully before you assess whether you need to do anything else to it, or you might just keep adding things over the top. Question from somebody coming in, is palette blending the only way to do this? No, you can go directly to the face if you like. I just find that palette blending to do a face like this when you're first starting gives me the confidence to get those smoother, less intense, harsh lines on the face, so I can be confident that I'm going to get something that I think looks really nice from the off. But if you have been colouring faces for a while and you're confident going straight in with all of the colours and blending that out, then absolutely you can do that too. And on some of the examples we're going to be looking at coming up soon, you're going to see me do that. So it's a continuation of the journey. I think to start, this is a softer, easier way for you to do it. I'll show you an example. If I go straight in with this blush on this face, can you see how that's much more intense and it looks like a stripe where before it was very soft? And then you might have to work a little harder to get that blended out, where because I palette blended it before, I didn't have that very defined mark on her cheek. Does that make sense? Still looks lovely, but it's a little bit harder to work with than just picking up the colour from your palette. So when you're a beginner, I think that's a good way to start. What I am going to do now is give her some lips. So she's going to, what do I think about this? Yeah, she's going to get a nice peachy lip to match in, which I like. That's lovely. And now that I've done all of that, I can take the lightest colour and I can just quickly swipe over my preserved highlights, which leaves them still at the lightest colour, but they're lighter than everywhere else. And then we've built up that lovely dimensional skin tone. Just realised I've missed that ear. We don't want to do that, do we, guys? Let's colour in our ear. So our ear would be darker inside because of the shadow and lighter on the outside. So you can see how I've done that there in terms of talking about where light and dark goes. Okay, so that's her skin tone, more or less done. We're good with that. For her eye, we're going to use a nice chestnut brown. So I'm going to use EB4 for her eye. You can see EB4. And for that, I'm going to preserve her highlights. I'm going in with the tip of the brush, going round here, and then I'm going to leave that little white bit at the top. Can you see there? just at the top, which keeps the eye alive. If you colour it all completely flat and don't leave that little white twinkle in there, or the little white bit at the top, the eye becomes very flat and has no life and has no reality in it. But being able to do that and just leaving that little flash is good. If you forget to leave the little flash in, you've got your white acrylic marker in the box and you can go and pop a little flash in, and that will fix it for you. So now that we've done that, we're going to go to the hair. So for hair, we're going to use, what are we doing for time? Oh my word. Hey, we might be here 3 hours. Does anybody mind? We might be here 3 hours. I need to speed up. What are you feeling in terms of speed, everybody? Do you need me to speed up, slow down? Would you mind if I was here 3 hours? I mean, what people in the gallery, do you need to go home? Okay. I need to speed up. There's lots to show you. Right, so the next thing we're going to do for the hair is GB3, and that is in your box. Where is it here? GB3, there we go. So we've got GB3, and then we're going to use EB1 and EB2, which is in this marker here. Again, all from your portrait box, EB1 and EB2. And then we're going to be using EB4 and EB6. Everybody in the everybody in the comments is saying, take your time, 3 hours is wonderful. But I need to make sure that the people pressing the buttons to make this happen don't have appointments, don't need to get away in 2 hours. I'm fine staying with you, but we need to check with those. Okay, so we've got EB4 and EB6 on there as well, so we're going to use those 3 markers for her hair. First colour to go down will be GB3, and we're just going to flick some colour on here. So I'm going to turn her around, because as I've talked to you about several times, I'm sure, I have to flick away from myself. So remember, the flicking action is very much from the wrist. So my wrist is on the desktop and my fingers are flicking. I'm not flicking with a whole hand action. My hand is anchored on the desk, so if I show you like that, I'm not flicking with a whole hand action. With this other vision, thank you. So I'm not flicking with a whole hand action like this. I'm keeping my hand anchored here, and I'm flicking only with my fingers. That makes sense. So that will help you get a little bit more control in your flicks. Okay, so we'll flick that in there. We've got some more suggestions coming in from everybody who thinks, I think I could just do this class every week. Well, that would be wonderful, but then you wouldn't get any new products. So I mean, I could settle for monthly, guys. You know, I could do monthly, maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so let's follow around. Notice I'm preserving highlight again. And we can look at, we can look at the overhead now. So I'm preserving highlight again, which is there. So just leaving some white space is preserving your highlight to come back and leave the shine and the space in the area where you need it. Fill in where you don't. So I'm following the curvature of the hair. Remember doing that. And then just flicking that round. Flicking this round here. Leaving a preserved highlight. Fill in the other little bits. And then on the crown of her head here, flicking in that direction, because the light would be hitting the top of her head, and then a little bit in that direction, and leaving a preserved highlight for a shine. And you can already see by adding that in how the hair starts to come to life, and you can see where the darker and lighter areas are going to be. So the next colour we're going to use is our EB1. And EB2, and we're going to use a few shorter strokes this time, so not quite as long as those. So EB1 first, and EB1 will come out. So if you think about the rule of thirds and think of this as a whole portion, we're going to come out 2/3 of the way with EB1. So not the full distance that we went with with EB3, not the full distance that, what is this? EB1. So with GB3, the first layer, with EB1, we're not going to go as far as that. So we're going to leave a little bit of the first layer of colour showing, is what I'm trying to say. I wasn't very eloquent with it, but there we go. So we're flicking that in. Oh, there's some love for my jewellery today too, on the charms of my bracelet. This is my Pandora bracelet, which I absolutely adore. And every single one of the charms on this bracelet has either been bought for me from my son, my husband, or my grandchildren. So it's very, very precious to me, I have to say. It is far more sentimental rather than a piece of bling, if that makes sense, because they're all either for a Mother's Day or a birthday or a Christmas or just because. They're really lovely. They're very precious to me. Thank you very much. I'm a sentimental soul, especially when it comes to family. I am. Okay, so just doing exactly what I was doing before, but just with this new colour. Now, we've got some comments coming in from a few of you saying you're struggling to get this flicky technique and you're wondering how I do it. So let's just take a second out. We'll come back to this in a momento. We'll take a darker pen and we'll talk about flicking in particular, same as you've asked the question. So if you go back and watch the first launch, we cover it in detail, but let's talk again. So we anchor our hand on the desk and then the flick happens with your hand. Now, the closer to the bottom happens with your fingers. The closer to the bottom of the pen, the smaller the flick. The further to the top of the pen, the bigger the flick. So you're going to gauge how big you want your flicks to be and then decide how far down the pen you're going to hold it. The only way you'll know how that works for you, because it'll depend on the size of your hand, the length of your fingers, so many different anomalies in there. Let me show you how to practice it. So if we start with the tiny flicks, which is holding it right at the bottom, and then you've got the pen at a kind of a 45-degree angle, you're going to flick. So it's fingers only. And then you see I've moved my fingers up. I'm doing the same flick. It's a different length. Move my fingers up. Same flick. Different length. Different width. So it gets wider and longer the further up the pen you hold it, depending on what you want to achieve. So if you're in a small area, you want your fingers close down to the bottom of the pen, about a 45-degree angle, and you flick with your fingers. Now when you're flicking, the brush is hardly touching the paper. What you don't want to do, and what you might be doing, is putting your brush down, pushing and trying to flick, which gives you this splodge at the bottom. So you're definitely not doing this and putting any pressure on it, because that's not a flick, it's just a line. You're just colouring with the nib at that point. So you're whisper touching the paper, and the further vertical you hold the pen, the smaller the detailed flick you can get. So angle where you hold the pen, keep your side of your hand anchored on the table, and then vary how far up you hold the pen. But you want the brush to only be tickling the top of the paper, barely touching it. Your nib should not be bending at all with any pressure. So this should not be happening at all. No pressure. Only just say touching the paper. Okay. Hope that helps with the flicking. I'm going to move that bit of scrap paper. We'll get back to our image. Okay, so I've done the GB3 and EB1, and so now we're going to continue and do the same with our EB2. So I've got EB2 here, which is the darker colour, and we go in shorter flicks again into the centre. So preserving our highlight all the way. And with hair, I find that it's better to do several of these layers in this way, and just elongate your flicks with every new time you do it, with every new moment, because that allows you to build it up and get that real texture and layering and dimension into your colouring. So we'll do several little layers like this rather than one big layer at the beginning, and it gives you a little bit more control, gives you a little bit more time to keep your highlights, your preserved highlights in the correct place, and also to bring in texture in the strokes. Now then, I'm going to just explain here. Can you see this little car flick underneath there? That will be darker because it's in shadow, it's in the root of the hair. So we will go in there with a darker colour to start with already. And you can see by just adding that in there, that pushes that back and makes it look like that hair is now falling over, if that makes sense. Just got a lighter colour in there. There we go. So you see how doing that, it starts to build it up. So once we've done that, we need to do exactly the same again. So I'm going to go with my GB3, And this time I'm going to bring in from the edge of the dark colouring I've done. I'm not going right back to the beginning again. Remember, light colours bleach dark colours out. So I'm coming to the edge of my colouring and just coming a little bit further into my preserved highlight this time, just to reduce that a little bit. From the edge of the colouring, not from the beginning of the colouring. Hope that makes sense. Leaving a little bit of that preserved highlight still in there, but I've still got the texture. And then I do exactly the same again with my EB1. And so I'm coming a little bit further in with my texture. Now, the thing is with alcohol colouring as well, what I want to say to you is never worry if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. Because you can, it will, depending on where your flicks landed, where you put your dark areas, where you put your light areas, that will change. So and it'll change every time I do it. I would never be able to do two images exactly the same. It will always look a little bit different. So never ever worry about that. And I'll show you why when we look at the example of the pre-coloured one and the one that I'm doing now. They will, for all be similar, look very different. So don't try and, you know, give yourself any kind of anxiety trying to make it look exactly like mine. So now I've got that in place and I can see where my preserved highlights are and I've got that dimension starting to happen in my hair. I can start to use my two darker colours. So I'm using my EB4 and EB6 again. And I'm going to actually come in with my EB6, which is the darkest colour, and start to add in some really nice, shorter, darker, bit like a, I can never pronounce it, is it a balayage or a, how do you pronounce that? You know, the fancy hairdo, where they've got all of the ombre hair colour. It's balayage. Thank you. Going to add that in. There we go. It starts to really come to life when you add that dark in, doesn't it? It's amazing. And I know a lot of you are scared to put that really dark in, and I understand why. But by putting the really dark in, it makes the light pop more. So don't be afraid to have a go. And at the end of the day, it's only colouring. So Liam, our director, says he's definitely going to try this technique when he gets in. Colouring's coming on a storm, isn't it, Liam? He's very, very happy. He's following through these lessons as we do them together, applying all the little techniques. Our colouring experts here at Crafters Companion, Taylor, is producing some fantastic work, were her words earlier. So I can't wait to see that, actually, Liam. I haven't seen any of it. You'll have to show me. Right, okay, so here we go. There we are. So it's really it's really starting to come together. And then we'll take the EB4 and bring that in, just as we did before. So a few flicks a little bit further in, preserving your highlight, remember. We've got the variation in tone. There we go. And don't worry about going over the first layers of the lighter colour with these darker colours, because what you do is by layering them up, you create new colours, but you also, in the spaces between the flicks, create the light and shade and the texture, which is what gives the movement in the hair. I'm now back to my EB1. And you can see I'm starting to flick over my preserved highlights now with that texture, but leaving it so it's still got the shine on. And then I'm going to come back to my GB3, make sure that is what it is, yeah, and do the same thing. There we go. Let's give her a little, I've forgotten that bit there. And I'm going to stop and take my bracelets off because they're annoying me now. So they've got to be annoying you. All right, there we are. So we see we've now finished that hair. So we've got that beautiful face and beautiful hair. And what I was talking to you about in terms of don't worry if it doesn't look exactly the same, you can see for all the colours are the same. I've got a little bit of a different placement on some of the textures in there. The face looks a little more warmer because I used a little more of the FS8 than I did on this initial one. It still looks fine. Don't give yourself too much pressure to try and make it look exactly the same. What you're doing is you're on a journey, and while I took more time on this one and the flicks are a little more refined, it does look more like hair, and I've done this a little speedier for you here. Both still look great. So it depends if you've got short time or a long amount of time to be able to really take your time with those flicks. You don't want to watch me spending 40 minutes doing that as opposed to the 10 or 15 that we've done here with that one. Okay, so that's how you just use the pens that come only in the box, and that shows you how to get your lovely shade on your skin and the flicks in your hair. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. And of course, all of those are going to get photographed and uploaded to the website for you to practice at your leisure. So I'll move that to one side over here. And now what we're going to have a look at is how to colour that same lady, but in a different coloured skin tone. So you can see here is the one that we've just done, an example of. And here is the same stamp, but in a much richer skin tone, which I think is the pure joy of having a box like this to be able to do portraits and being able to match the stamped images to an appropriate skin tone that you want to send to somebody. I think it's marvellous. But I know some of you are scared in terms of which colours to pick and how to do. So I'm going to go through that with you now. So I'm just going to move these out the way. And then you'll see what I have created is the same board again that we had before. So you can see how to do that. The hair has been done in exactly the same way as we did the previous hair. So I won't go over that again. The colours are in here for you to achieve this colourway. I won't colour it in again because you've already watched me do that once, but the colours are included. What we will do now is do this richer skin tone so you can see how to bring those colours together. All right. So I've got my stamped image. My finished piece. This is my colourway 1, and so my pens for colourway 1 are GB3, which is from my portrait box. I've then got EB1, which I believe is in this portrait box as well. Yep, EB1, and I've got EB2 in there, and then I need TN1 and GB3. So TN1 was in your original box. So that is this marker here. So you've got pale tan, sand and sandstone. So this marker with TN1 and TN3 was in your original auto ship box. You will need that marker. So first step first, we're taking GB3, which is here, and we're putting down that base layer of colour that we did before. And we're going to just get a nice smooth blend all over this face. And I will also preserve my highlight. Now, you'll notice on this example here, I haven't preserved highlight. So it's up to you. You can choose, depending on the finished look, that you want to do it all now flat or to leave a little bit of preserved highlight if you want. In fact, let me do it flat so you can see it differently, the two different ways. Because the lighter colour that we're putting on the base here will become the highlight. It will become the lightest colour. So we'll just colour this in. So I'm going to leave her eye white. And we'll come back to that later. Okay, so don't forget her ear this time. Around the hair, underneath the chin. You'll take more time than me, you get the idea. There we go. And Liam's just saying it already looks totally different. It's surprising. When you first start to put that colour down, you're like, oh no, I've ruined it. But you haven't. Just take confidence that you are going in the right direction. Okay, so there we go. That's the first layer of colour that we've got down. We're then going to, and that's a smooth blend all over the skin. We're going to take our EB1, which is sand, EB1. And we're going to do exactly what we did before in terms of adding in where our shade is going to be. So we're going to come in exactly the same places with EB1. Under her hairline and around this little piece of hair that's coming down here. And down this little bit of hairstyle there. And we might have a little bit on the tip of her ear there where her hair's falling over. Certainly underneath her neck and down here and on top of her shoulder, and a little bit the side of the face there from her ear and hair. So that's where we've got our shade happening now. Oh, there'll be a little bit down here from the brow bone and always a little bit here under the nose. Okay, so that's where our main shade is. We've done our map exactly as we did the map before. Once you've done that, we're now going to use EB1 and EB2 again. Remember, I did the palette blending. I cannot recommend this enough when it comes to doing your skin tones. I do feel it just makes that initial blend on the skin so much easier and less problematic for you. So the darker tone goes down, which is EB2. And then with EB1, exactly as we did before, pick up a little bit of that colour, make sure I'm doing it the right way, yes I am. Pick up a little bit of that colour and then blend it out. Oh, question from Liam, the palette blending won't stay in the lighter colour, will it? No. It just flushes through. I'll show you that. Am I using the right colour here? EB1. Yes, I am. Good. See, I'm doubting myself. Have faith in yourself, Leann. Okay, and then I'm going to take my GB3, which was the first layer of colour, and blend this out. There we go. Now, once we've done that, we need to add in a little bit, let's say depth with tan, a little more depth. And what I want to do with that is add in a little bit of shade, but I don't want to go straight in with the marker. So I'm going to use, where's my TN1 gone? Here it is. TN1 and TN3. And I'm going to use TN1 on my marker, and with my GB3 pick a little bit of that up. So I'm mixing a new colour, and that will just tone that down for me. A little bit of shade around there, a little bit under her eye. So you see it just creates another colour and then starts to soften out all of that blending that we've got. And then you can choose which colour you want to do for a blush. Now this lady can have a blusher on, and we can put her a peachy one on, or you can go for a natural skin tone blush if you would prefer. Notice what I'm doing here with TN3. I'm just adding in little bits of extra shade in places so I can blend that out. So I've got some highs and some lows in the colour. And remember what I said earlier, when you're doing a face like this with a richer skin tone, then you've got a lot more alcohol ink on the page. So rather than keep going at it, you need to stop and walk away and let all of the alcohol ink settle so that you can see where the dark areas, where the light areas are, where you need to add some more and where you don't need to. So stop and don't do anything else until it's all dried in. And then once that has, you can find out where you need to put your cheek. I'm going to use FS5 for the cheek, which is a nice peachy colour that comes in your original box. And I'm going to pick that up with my GB3 and then just give that a nice little glow there. And then when the alcohol dries, that will settle down. Okay, so that's how you do that particular richer skin tone, and the colours are all included on this little crib sheet that I've got for you. Okay, so just a reminder as to why we've got a piece of paper under the bit that we're colouring is it's a blotter. So what that does is blot out any ink that comes through on the other side, and that's correct, that should happen. but it stops it pooling on the page underneath and soaking back up through the card. So it blots it away. It means you don't get that bleeding and mottling and spreading out outside of the lines. So always scribble all the colour onto your second piece of paper. Now, what I want to show you is how that look will change completely once you add her hair. So you could be forgiven. Sometimes when I do this, I think, oh no, that's it, ruined it. Nope, no good. And then I do the hair and I'm like, oh, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's what I wanted. It's what I planned. So with that skin colour tone that we've done there, if you look at the difference here between the skin tone that I've done and then what it looks like when the hair is applied, you can see that by adding the hair, it brings everything into context and it starts to look like that really polished, richer, deeper skin tone that you're trying to achieve. So you've got that all marked out for you there. You've got the skin tone colours and you've got your hair colours all marked out, and you can do the hair in exactly the same we did the hair when we did this one earlier. But you've got it in two completely different. Okay, so we've got questions coming in to say their darker skin tones look blotchy. Have I got any tips for that? I have. Don't put too much ink on. So you know when I said sometimes when you're looking, it can look blotchy and you can think I've ruined it because you think you haven't put the ink on evenly. What's happening is you have your alcohol, your different colours are evaporating at different speeds depending on where you've got more ink and where you've got less ink. So when you start to feel like that, stop, walk away, leave it for 15 minutes. When the alcohol has evaporated, it will start to smooth out and look much more flat. So having too much ink on makes it go blotchy. Less ink, flat, light layers, and let it dry will stop the blotchy happening. Okay, so that's the richer skin tone and the darker hair, which we've done. Now we're going to do a richer skin tone and curly hair. And I have to say, this is my favourite stamp in this entire collection. I simply adore it. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So we've got this brilliant image here where we can colour it and have that beautiful Afro-Caribbean skin tone and hair, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. Or of course we can go very Annie and have it a beautiful red colour with a very pale skin tone, and both look beautiful. And that's the absolute joy, I think, of this portrait collection, with the different images and the different markers that we give you. You can choose, depending on who you're sending the card to, how you do the skin and hair, and I think that's hugely appropriate. So we're going to start with our darker skin tone here, and we're going to colour her in. Here she is here. So we're starting with EB1 again, everybody. So EB1 is the pen that comes in your portrait collection. Here it is. So starting with EB1, and then we're going to go to EB2 for some shade, and then we're going to go to GB6. Where is that? GB6 must be in our original box. Let's find that for you. GB6. What colour are these? TN6. Oh, where is GB6? What do you look like, GB6? FS9. Where are you, GB6? What do you look like? Is it AB6 or GB6? GB3, GB1, EB2, EB1. I think I might have done a typo to myself. Bear with while I look for GB6 in my box, because I cannot see it. FS9. What is this? TN6. Nope, it's definitely a typo. So EB6 is the one we need. I'll scribble on that before we upload it for you. Make sure I've done the right one. So we've got EB1, EB2, EB6 and EB2 again, and then for the cheeks on this one we're going to use CR6, which is definitely in your original box. So CR6, there we go. So we're using CR6. Alright, so they're the pens that you need for this face. So firstly we're going to start with our EB1. Where are you? EB1, here it is. And we're going to put our base layer down. So, and this is going all over. The only place that I'm not putting this is in the whites of her eyes and on her lips. So I'm going with a light flat layer, so not too much, so we're not saturating the card with this, we're just doing a nice light underlayer of colour, and that's how you'll prevent the blotchy happening, to get a nice smooth blend. So it's a light layer. There we go. All right, so that's the first time. And then we're going to use EB2, the opposite side of the pen, to add some shade in. So that's going to go under her hairband here. And because we're working on a smaller stamp and a smaller face now, the amount of shade that we put in would be much less. So we're coming in with EB2. Is that EB2? Yes, it is. In smaller areas along the side of her face here. And then under her neck for her chin, a little bit down her shoulder there, under that little bit where her scarf is, and leave it there. So only a small amount because we're working in a smaller area. Then what we're going to do is pick up our EB6 from our, here it is, Landing palette. So a little bit of EB6 on here. And we're going to pick that up with our EB2. So there's a little bit of EB6, EB2, just to add a little bit more in smaller areas. There we go. See how we're building that up? Pick up a tiny bit. And this time I'm just dotting it in because I'm working in a much smaller area. And you see, by putting in that shade and then leaving the highlight on her chest really does help hugely. Dot that in down the side and let that alcohol start to dry down flat. Don't add anything else in yet. I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm just getting my wet wipe because I need to clean my palette. Oh, here it is here. Oh, a whole stream of them. There we go. Clean the palette. Rubbing alcohol will do this for you at home. So, or a bit of nail varnish remover to clean your palette off. I'll just keep adding to mine. All right. Okay, so I'm letting that evaporate and settle down. So while I'm letting it evaporate and settle down to come back in and smooth out those blends, don't be afraid to do that. I'm going to go and start on her hair. So for her hair, I'm going to use curly strokes, and I'm going to start with EB1. What does a curly stroke look like? I'm sure I can hear you shouting. And a curly stroke is simply that. So it's like letter M's. Up and down, up and down, up and down. So you can see that there. So just like the letter M, going in that direction all the way in, preserving my highlight. So you can see I've got little white areas in between. And I'm going to come round and do those little letter M's all the way around. And then change direction and do letter W's in the opposite direction till they meet in the middle. There we go. So that's the first layer for her hair, just while her skin's sorting, it's drying, the alcohol's drying out. And then we're going to take our second colour for the hair, which is our EB6. And we're going to do exactly the same at the top, but leaving a little bit of the EB2 showing. So we're moving up a little bit as we do it. So letter M's to 12 o'clock on her head, and then turn it round and letter W's in the opposite direction. Always leaving a little bit of preserved highlight. Okay, so that goes on like that. And then we're going to take EB4 and we're going to do a kind of stripping technique to blend the colours and add texture, which is just filling it in. So that would be like this. So I've just had a note there in my ear from our fabulous tailor to say there's lots of thank yous from you for being so patient and answering your questions and taking your time. That is what I'm here for today, everybody. It's to be at your beck and call, and most importantly, to give you the confidence to go forward and colour in and feel like you're really achieving when you do that, and you're happy and confident and getting the best out of it, no longer feeling intimidated or scared, and then producing something where you can sit back and look at it and go, I'm proud of that, I've improved. So you can see that her hair came together like that, didn't it? Very, very quick and easy to do, and looks fabulous. So now that I've let her face alcohol ink evaporate, what I can do is come back with that initial colour and just blend out, still preserving my highlights in places. That's going to come down there. There we go. Let the alcohol ink evaporate as you do that, and then you can pop your cheek colour in. And for the cheek colour, we're going to do this lovely coral. Wow, there's 544 of you watching, which, wow, thank you so much for joining. That's all I can say. I'm thrilled beyond words. I don't know how to thank you. That's marvellous. And then we're going to do some nice coral lips. There we go. You see how that starts to come together. And then when you've got her face done there, I want a little bit more coral blush here, the lighter shade. Just into the side. I think that looks better. There we are. And then if you want to tone that down, go back to your first skin colour and just do a little, the first layer of skin colour, do a little dot over and around, and that will calm it down for you and bring it out. And then leave that to dry again. This will not look as dark as this once it's dried down. So once the alcohol evaporates, it will lighten and the blend will smooth automatically itself. So once you've done that, and then you have, you're ready, and you want to add in her clothes. Remember, we did clothes in the first lessons, didn't we? You can go and do her clothes using the corals, and that is what you're going to be able to achieve. She's going to look like that. And then if you want to use some different colours, you can have her as Annie, and I've got the colours for both to share with you, so that you can achieve both of those looks. But of course you could do that with blondes, you can do it with any colour you like. It's the technique that matters. And this is with corals that we've done here, corals and browns. Okay, so there we are. That's how we do the richer skin tone and that Afro-Caribbean hair. Wow. Tips on colouring ageing skin and hair, because our girls are so the comment, I want to be careful how I say this, because I am one of you. The comment says our crowd are older girls. I'm going to say I'm colouring myself young, darling. I'm not worried about making myself look old. However, that's just me. I'm colouring myself young. I'm going to take 20 years off myself, just like that. I would say your skin tone doesn't really matter. If you want to get a more natural, a grey hair tone, then you're going to use your ice greys and do exactly the same technique that we've just done there, but in the ice greys. And actually, you're right to pick that up, because we haven't done a colour combination for a grey hair. Your skin tone is your skin tone, regardless of your age, so your face is going to be the same. And I'm never going to make a stamp with wrinkles, just so you know. So none of us need that in our lives. But what we will do, we definitely don't. I mean, most of us have spent now time trying to iron them out with potions that cost $200 a pop. So, and I'm definitely on QVC buying all of the skin things. So I think I'm going to get some grey hair tones worked out for you and uploaded to that website. Please don't expect them in the next 2 days, but I will do them in the next couple of weeks. Let me say that for you, and we'll get them loaded for you. And actually, if you share hair colour requests in the comments, Taylor is making a note of those. And what I'll do is get an example and the colour families worked out for you, so that you can copy that. We'll get them uploaded into the website for you. Does that help? Marvellous. Right, so we're going to move on to hair now. Let's do hair when you really want to get some texture in there. Love this stamp. Oh, Liam did an intake of breath. He went, which I love. Thanks, Liam. And we're going to do the red hair. Woo, woo. So let's do the red hair, because apparently we've had a lot of requests for red hair. So you see, we've already worked that out for you. So you've got your step-by-steps that we're going to upload. We've got your finished example, and you've got all of your colours in a list, and this will all get uploaded for you. So I'm going to fast forward to one of these images. I love this image. It's so elegant. And I've also got the colour families for this, with that beautiful, rich skin tone, and also the beautiful, highlighted, coppery, really lovely hair, and changes the look and feel, changes immediately. You change the colours, which is what I particularly love about a portrait collection, customising to the person you want to send it to. So I need to take CT4. CT4 is in your first box. So I've got CT4, and then I've got CR6, which is also in your first box, CR6. And then CR8, which is at the opposite side of that, so CR6 and 8. I haven't got my glasses on, but I'm sure that's what it says. CR6 and 8 there. And then we need our EB6, which is in our portrait box. So we've got those markers already. So these two from your first box, your first launch, this marker from your portrait box, and this is going to build up our hair for us. So the first thing we're going to do is take our CT4, and we're going to flick in, and we'll just work on the crown to start. So we're going to flick into the centre, and I probably won't do the whole head because I've got to get onto the watercolouring bits for you yet and show you that. But exactly as we did when we did the little doggy, exactly as we did when we did the hair at the beginning, I'm just taking the flicking motion into the centre of the crown here, because that's where the plait is. So you can see I've flicked all the way in, and then I'm going to do it in the same direction opposite, and leave preserved highlight in the centre, little white areas. Now when you're doing something plaited like this, that's what you're going to do. You're going to take each area as a separate area, flick from the top to the centre, the bottom to the centre, leave a preserved highlight little piece in the middle, and treat every one of the little bits below in exactly the same way. So that's with my CT4. I'm then going to take my CR6 and do some shorter strokes for that. So here's my CR6, and do exactly the same process, but not quite as far out. There we go. So you see, it's not really, the technique remains the same. All that changes is the shape of your image, so the direction of the flicks, really. So once you've got your flicks and you know the technique, you can, honestly, colour anything. It's just getting those few little techniques nailed, and once you've got those few little techniques nailed, you are golden, as the youth of today say. There we go. All right, so there's the crown of her head, done like that. And then we're going to take our CR8 and do slightly shorter strokes again. So CR8 is the opposite side of the pen. We're just coming in. Still haven't took those bracelets off. Next class, I promise not to wear the bracelets. It's because I've been in the office all day today and I've just forgotten to take them off. Oh, Liam says they add a bit of pizzazz. I've got my new necklace on today, which my husband, Mr. C, those of you who follow and know him, bought me in Crete on our holidays because it's our 30th wedding anniversary this year. So he treated me, which was very nice of him, I thought. He's very generous. He's very, oh, there we go, we're going to see the necklace, there we are. It's like a Greek sign, the swirl, well, it's Crete sign actually, the swirl, and it's white opal. I love it. He's a kid, I mean 30 years, you know what I mean. Either I need a medal or he's rewarding me, one of the two. I mean, it looks like a medal, it's nice and round, so we're going to call this my 30-year medal. Okay, so I've done that in the same with my CR8, and now I'm going to use EB6 on my palette. Where have I put my palette? There's another palette here. Let's use this one. I've lost my palette. I'll have filed it away somewhere. So we're going to put EB6, which is from the pen in your first box. EB6 goes onto your palette, and then you're going to take your CR8, which is the colour we've just used, and add in a little bit of further depth for that red hair colour, picking up the brown. Apparently a lot of you were congratulating on the anniversary, so thank you very much. That's very kind of you. He's a good egg. And then, but so am I. It's all about working together, isn't it? And appreciating each other's. Actually, this is not a relate session. This is a colouring session, so I'm going to stop talking about it. Oh, dear me. Right, here we go, EB6. This is what happens when you're just sitting and colouring with each other. And I forget that this is an education session, and what I'm doing is just chatting to you about life. It's just like we're all getting together and having a nice time, which we are, but you know how it goes. So I'm just picking up the EB6, and you see that tones down that CR8, and you get a new colour mixed, a new tone, which has given lovely shade to this hair, but is not overwhelming it with brown. You've still got that lovely red colour that's coming through. So once you've done that, we're going to take our CR4, I think it was, CR6, I beg your pardon, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that remaining colour and then just sweep that in a little bit further and sweep it down. So you can see we're mixing that shade, filling into where the preserved highlights are, and then finally with my CT4 just catching those highlights, and you start to build that beautiful dimension in the hair that you can see there. And none of that was any different to what we have done with our flicking techniques for the little dogs and for the hair that we did earlier, etc. So it's just about treating each individual area as a separate piece and following that flicking motion. And when you do that and you build up the whole head, this is what you can achieve. And all I've got in there is a little bit more of the coral with the GB underneath. And if you want to achieve that, you can do a final swipe over to remove the obvious CT4. That swipe over with that CT6 it was, not CT, yes, CT6 it was, with CT6 from your original box, takes away that bright yellow and gives you that lovely red shine. But a red hair has a yellow, a warm undertone, which is why we start with the yellow. You see it's gone, but it's still that undertone there, which gives you the shine on the red hair. And of course, we've already done skin, so you can do that in either your light or your richer tone, and you can use a whole other range of colours there to get that lovely golden hair if you want to. And I'm including in the uploads that we're going to do to the website for you all of the colours in lists, so you can achieve that look yourself. And of course, clothes we did in the first session, so you know what to do with the clothes. Okay, so that's the hair from the back, which I think is superb. Now I've just got a couple of things to show you because I want to get onto the watercolouring aspect actually. I think that'll be really interesting for you. And I'm just going to ask my fabulous assistants if I can have a wodge of, yes please, a wodge of watercolour paper. So I'm going to talk to you about this one because we've included these. I don't think you need to see me do this because you watched me do this type of hair in the first box launch. So go back to the first lesson for this. And then it's very similar to the techniques we've just watched on all of the other images. What you can see is though I have included for you the step-by-steps that you can see here. So you've got the step-by-steps and colours. And I think this is, we had a question at the beginning of the session where we were asked for blonde hair, not yellow hair. I think this is a good representation of a blonde, a warm blonde hair, not a yellow hair. And so those colours are included there for you to be able to do. I think it's a really lovely, non-brassy, warm, natural blonde hair. So that is already included there for you. And the skin tone is a light one, but it equally could be a dark one, whatever you want. You've seen us do that for you. And don't forget there were lots of skin tone combinations included with the first lesson, so go back and have a look at those too. And then I'm also going to give you the skin tone and hair colours to be able to do this in that lovely brunette colour as well. And so they will all be uploaded for you so that you can achieve that following the techniques that you learned in the first lesson. We've just given you the additional colours with the portrait box. I'll upload those for you. Okay, so some people are asking, can I explain my thought process and how I choose the colour combinations? It's a difficult one. It becomes intuitive over time. I would say if you're brand new, follow the examples we give you. And when you start working with those, you will start to have random little thoughts of, oh, I wonder what it would look like if I added in a bit of that. Experiment. And that's the only way I've been able to be able to go on that journey. Because when I first started, I had no clue. And a very good friend who's a colourist used to help me with it. That's what I'm hoping I am to you now, a very good friend helping you choose the colours. And then as you go on your journey, you will feel more confident and want to add in a little bit of something. Example, doing a lovely grey tone hair, I will probably put in a very light lilac or a very light blue as an undertone, because that's the colour that you see in natural light. And it won't be obvious in the finished colour, but it'll be that underlayer. And you'll start to be able to see and do that for yourself. I would say stare at people in the street or when you go for a coffee, because you'll see different colours in their hair. And you'll be like, oh, I'm going to try that on my marker. I've started now seeing things in, oh, her hair's a GB6. Or her dress is a CR8. I do see colours and spectrum round markers, and you will start to do that. And when you start to do that, you'll know that you're ready to start experimenting with your own colour families. But we could actually probably, when this whole academy's over, do another session at the end in terms of your journey now to start planning your own colours. And I'll think about how I incorporate that and explain it a little bit better than I just have. The other one that I've got here for you that I'm going to upload is this sassy lady. I do like her. I think she's fab. But you've got the instruction for clothes in your first lesson. So take the instruction that you had from your first lesson for clothes into this new image that you've got in your portraits. And we've already done skin and hair. So choose what colour skin you want, choose what colour hair you want, and colour it in. But I've given you a little suggestion there, should you want to follow it. I'll upload that as well. Okay, so moving on now to watercolouring. So I'm just going to flip my pens around. I need to put these alcohol ones away and get out my watercolour tray, which I've got here, and my brushes. So I'm going to need my detail brush, possibly my white marker, but I'm certainly going to need all these watercolour pens. What I like to do, when I've put them all away nice and firm, is when I'm about to do a colouring session, is what I'm doing here. I just loosen them and rest them in their little spaces so that I can pick them up easily and I'm not wrestling with it. So at the beginning of a session, I do that. I loosen them and rest them on the edge of the box so that they're easy to pick up and access. Just a top tip for you, whether you want to do that too, and then you're not having to dig them out every time. Okay, because it's when you keep plonking them back in and having to dig them out, it gets a little bit tedious. So just loosening them all and then resting them on the lip of your box. Like that, you can see that on the overhead there. And rest them on the lip of the box like that. They're very easy then to just pick up, and then when you're finished you can push them back and squidge them in. So that's just from someone who got very frustrated putting them back in and out of the holes over a period of time, that little top tip for you. All right, so we're going to have a look now at colouring watercolour images with the pens that come in the box. So the first one I've got here, this is the one we're going to achieve, which I hope you agree looks lovely. And exactly as we did for alcohol, I've done for watercolour. So you've got your stages and you've got your colours. Now, what I will say is, when you're watercolouring skin and hair, you will never, ever, ever, it is impossible to achieve that lovely, smooth, alcohol-coloured look. You just can't. It's not the nature of a watercolour beast. So it will look very painterly. It will look patchy in places. It will look splotchy in places. That is the nature of watercolour. It's meant to look artistic. So if you want to achieve the lovely, soft, smooth, airbrush look, do with your alcohol markers. If you want to achieve the lovely, natural, organic, looser, painterly effect, then you're going to do it with your watercolours, which is what we've got here. Okay, so first steps first with my stamped image. Here she is on the watercolour card from the box or from Crafter's Companion watercolour card. I'm going to take out my pens and I need Marigold. I'm going to do, should I do a hair first or a skin? I think I might do a skin. So I need Sandstone and Peach for the skin, and I need Marigold. Oh, I've thingied my nail. Marigold and Crimson. Where's Crimson? It's Crimson in the first box. Crimson. Yes, Crimson. Oh, look at that. Liam has Liam, who's our director, has definitely been colouring a lot because he's telling me, yes, Leanne, Crimson's in the first box and it's on the opposite side of Blossom. I didn't remember that. Thank you, Liam. Okay, so let's do her skin first and then we'll do her hair. And use it, add more definitions and peach and sandstone where needed. Yep, okay, peach and sandstone. Yep, that's what we're doing. I'm reminding myself, everybody. So sandstone first. Now you will need your palette. What have I done with it again? If you have, oh yeah, honestly, it was here a minute ago. I think I must keep tidying it up with whatever I'm doing. I wonder if it's over here. Right, if you lose your palette, like I have, use your glass mat. I've now lost 2 palettes, so I'm going to use my glass mat. Okay, so I'm putting sandstone. Can you see that? Can you see it? I'm putting sandstone on my palette and peach. Can you see the slight difference in the 2 colours? I'm going to do it on here. So look how the peach is that colour and then the sandstone is this colour. And then the 2 mixed together is this colour, which is different again. And that's much more of a skin tone colour. Can you see that there? So with the aqua markers, with the Duo Aqua that you've got in here, you're going to be mixing yourself new colours. So again, I'm going to put on here some of the sandstone and some of the peach to mix those together. Right, now what we're going to do first is dampen our image with our brush. So remember, you always have a piece of kitchen towel close at hand. You need that. We've got our pot of water and our paintbrush. We dip our paintbrush in and we take the majority of the water off. So we want a damp brush, not a wet brush. So I'm just touching it to the towel. Liam has very kindly found my palette for me. Thank you, Liam. I very much appreciate it. The other one will be in there somewhere. I'm a nightmare for it. And we're going to dampen the image that we're about to paint. So this is just clear water. And basically what that does is prime your watercolour card ready to receive the colour that we're going to put on. So it's not saturating it. And if you feel you've got too much water in places, pick it up, because it just wants to be damp. It doesn't want to be wet. We're then mixing these 2 colours together, which is the peach and the sandstone. And then we're going to take that colour onto the skin. Now, the reason that this is blending and colouring beautifully straight as I put it down and the brush is smoothly gliding over the card is because I did that dampening with the water straight away. And you'll notice the tiny bit of colour, and I'm preserving my highlights as I did before. So you see at the top of the nose, underneath her brow bone, that's all been preserved highlight. Tiny bit on that brush, and it has coloured over that entire face area. It's already starting to look beautiful. It was a tiny, tiny, tiny bit that I'd used, but you can pick a little bit more, just tip of the brush in the water there, dab it onto there, pick up a little bit more of the colour, add in your shade. So now I'm going over the top. And the thing with watercolours is that the colour is buildable. So you don't always need a new colour with watercolour. You just go in and add a little bit more intensity. So you see I pick it up off the palette and then I bring in the shade in the areas which is around her hairline, under this little bit of hairline here. You might need to mix yourself a little bit more of the colour. when you've used it up. You can bring that round so you can start to build that colour up lovely. And dampening the card first is what makes that smooth blend happen really easily. So now we're going to have a little bit more of the sandstone and peach. So I'm going to have sandstone here and peach here. And then I'm going to add a little bit more shade to the face now with these. So I'm actually just going to take the peach, come round here, there we go, layer up the colours, just where it's a little bit darker. So the rule of where the dark goes is exactly the same as when you were using your alcohol marker, just you're using it in a different application mode with a brush. Now I've got a little bit of the sandstone. And then to blend, when we're blending with alcohol markers, we use another marker, don't we, in a lighter colour. For watercolour, we use water. So clean off your brush, dab off the excess on your towel, so you've got a very damp brush. And then this is how we blend out the colour and how we pull it out into the rest of the face. There we go. You can mix them together again, and then if you feel you need to just bring that out by mixing them together, you've got an extra bit of colour on your brush. You can smooth that out. If you feel you start to get too much water, dab it away and then go back in, and you see how that now has smoothed that out even more. So I get that lovely change. Now what I'm going to do for my preserved highlight areas is clean my brush, wipe it over slightly there, and then paint over the nose, which gives me a slight tinge to the colour. So I take away the whiteness of the card, but it leaves the skin feeling light. And that's how we do the watercolour face. We would do exactly the same for her neck, which I'll do very quickly for you. So I've got here peach and sandstone. So question coming in, is it possible to use alcohol marker on the face and watercolour on the hair? It's a little more tricky. So you can colour, it is possible with practice to colour with alcohol markers on watercolour card. However, it will suck the ink out of your markers really quickly because it's a very porous card. So you've got to be prepared for the fact that your pen is going to run out quickly. It's not easy to watercolour on Nina card. Let me find one of these images on. I'm going to show you why. You know, empty one. Bear with me, guys. I'm going to show you because I think it's nice to see it, isn't it? To understand why. Where is it? Come to me. Come to me. Oh, where have I put you? Oh, no. I'm just talking to myself now. I'm having a conversation. Let's just use this image because that's the first one I can get my hand on. Right. So look, this is a stamped image on Nina. And if I try to do this, let's try and do the skin. You'll see in the same way that while it'll go on, it doesn't blend as easily. And then look what's happening here, because you have to use a different ink pad for alcohol markers and watercolour markers. Can you see how that black ink is smudging and now the face looks very grey? So it changes the colour. So it's very difficult because you need a different stamp, a different ink to stamp with for watercolour that you do alcohol. So it makes it more difficult. So I would say that's a very advanced technique, and if you feel confident to be able to do that, give it a go. I wouldn't be advising it off the bat. I know it's probably not what you want to hear, is it? But it does. I think you're going to be disappointed with your results if you do it. Okay, so now I've got that face down there. I want to add in some cheeks, because I think I've got enough shade on her face. I don't think I need to add anything else. So the shade for her cheeks I'm going to add in with a little bit of my Blossom. Yep, Blossom. What was I doing? Crimson. I think I'm using crimson for her hair. So I'm going to use Blossom for her cheeks. I'm going to water that down. And then just bring that in. Clean the brush. Soften the edges just with the tip of my brush. Bring it out a little bit further. So you can see that's softened that hugely. And now that looks like a nice soft glow on her cheek rather than the little splodge of colour that we had down. So watercolour is very forgiving. And you can keep going in and doing that. And actually what I like to do, because you do get that kind of blush on skin, is if I've got it on the cheek, what I'll do is water it down and I'll add a little bit kind of to the shaded areas and then blend that out with a damp brush, and it kind of builds to the overall skin tone effect that you've got. If you want to tone it down, pick up a little bit of your original colour. So you see, actually there's no real, with watercolour you can really experiment. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it alone. It's knowing when to leave it alone, because you can actually spoil it by not leaving it alone. So I'm going to leave that where it is. Okay, so that's her face. For her eye, I would use the olive marker, and actually I would just go in with the tip of the marker. And I'll leave the little white bit at the top, as we did before. So now she's got a beautiful green eye. And so, what was the name of the lady? Amanda says she could watch me colour forever. Thank you, Amanda. That's really kind of you. So let's do her hair. So for her hair, we're going to have Marigold. That's Jasmine. Where's Marigold? Oh, was that in the original box? Sunflower. Oh, Marigold. Jasmine. Oh, Marigold's at the opposite end of the olive. Oh my word, Liam. I think we're going to have him on Mastermind. We're going to have Liam on Mastermind. What colour is on the end of the Jasmine pen? Yes! Oh, yes, you're right. It is gold, Liam. Gosh, we are going to definitely get Liam on Mastermind. Okay, so I've got my Marigold, and then I also need... hang on, I need a lighter colour as well. I need to remember what I've done. So using the lighter colour all over, and then Marigold for my highlights, and then crimson. That's what I've done. Okay, so I've got the Jasmine or gold, and then I've got, you can do either depending, because they're both yellow. Then I've got Marigold, which is more of a little orangey colour, and then I've got my crimson, which is the reddy colour, and we're going to build up the hair to do that. So first off, we're going to use the lightest colour, which is the Jasmine, and do exactly as we did for the skin. So we're going to get a clean brush and just dampen the area that we're going to colour. So we're prepping it. You see how these black lines are not moving at all? That was the difference when we tried to do it with the alcohol coloured image. The right ink is imperative to stop the black lines smudging into your work. So I'm just prepping where I'm going to colour with a light wash of clean water. And you can take off the excess because it doesn't need to be flooded, it just needs to be dampened. And then we're going to start with this lovely light colour to start. And we're going to give a nice little base layer. And you can preserve some highlights again, so leave some lighter areas. So we've got some questions coming in. If we don't finish our colouring in one session with watercolour, can you dampen the card and finish where you started? Yes. With watercolour you can stop and start again. Alcohol colouring, not so easy. So you need to finish the bit that you're working on with alcohol colouring. But certainly with your watercolour, if I'd get to this point and then the kids start screaming downstairs because somebody's done something, I can leave that alone and come back to it later. Not worry about it. And then just start using your damp brush. You don't even need to damp the whole image again. Just start where you left off. That's going to be fine. So now I'm going to do with my, did I just do Jasmine? I'm going to do gold. So a bit of gold onto the palette, And then exactly as we did before, damp brush, take off the excess onto your bit of towel. Try not to do what I'm doing and drop little bits of water on your image. You don't want to do that, that'll ruin it. And then take this in to your areas. Again, leaving your preserved highlights in places. So that's darker areas and lighter areas where there is no colour. Oh, so we've got so many comments coming in, which is what makes these classes so great. We can just watch Leann over and over to see and understand, and also to have a little practice yourself and see how you're going. And it's wonderful that you are really enjoying this format, everybody. Really it is. I love that, because that was our intention. We wanted to, with salesy television shows, while they are lovely and I personally have the best fun doing them, we are there for a reason, and we get interrupted and we get stopped and we have to move on, and of course that is the nature of that kind of beast. So to have this uninterrupted, protected time with you where we can truly just concentrate on the lovely experience of colouring and have the time to dedicate to you, I think it's a wonderful part of this programme, and I am grateful to Crafters Companion for allowing me the time to do this with you. I really am. So, got that on there. I've dropped a bit of water there. Be careful not to drop water on your image when you're colouring in and out your pot. I'm doing it because I've got my pot so close so you can see when I'm going back in. Keep your pot away and keep your tissue away when you're doing it yourself, so you're not dragging over the top all the time. So this is definitely a case of do as I say, not as I do. Next thing, we're going to use Marigold on the painting palette, and we're going to do exactly the same process again. So a damp brush, so dip in, take off the wet, so we needed some people saying, what's the top tip to not misplace your palette? Taylor, with your suggestions. Oh, so from Mary says, put some red liner tape on it or put some Gildan flakes on it and you'll never lose it again. That is an excellent, excellent idea. And actually, to Mary's point, what you could do is red liner tape it to a piece of white cardstock, and then you'll always know where it's at. But I've no doubt that you won't be as messy as I am at home and be tidying, a million things up as you're working. So you'll not mislay yours. Or you might. I mean, I would mislay it at home, really, to be fair. So that's the kind of crafter I am. Right, okay, so you see I'm going in now with this is the Marigold, I believe, which is the slightly more orangey colour. And I'm just filling that in, leaving my preserved highlights again, and following that round. So at the tips and at the roots, it's darker, and then it's lighter in the middle. There we go. And here we are a little bit more. There we are, that's with the Marigold. And so now we're going to do honestly, I like that colour of hair as it is. If I was at home, I would probably leave that now. I'd probably let that be. I think that's a really nice colour as it is. But now we're going to add the crimson and deepen it. So to get that red colour, so we're going to add crimson on here, which is that lovely red. Dampen the brush again, not too much, pick up a little bit. When you get a deep, intense colour like that, less is more. So don't pick up too much of this colour, because then you'll just have a red block of hair. So you see I'm just barely touching the tip of my brush in that palette, and then I'm gently spreading this out across here, and it's blending well because it's already moistened and dampened the card, and so we're just kind of blending another colour on. And the joy of watercolour is exactly that. Water makes the colours blend. So by doing this, it magically blends for you, which actually makes watercolouring much easier to start with than alcohol colouring, even though I know from the last classes it's the thing that scares you the most. It's actually going to be the thing that is really easy for you to do and get a beautiful result with very, very quickly. So you see, I'm only picking a tiny bit up and then using that to spread out over the top. So apparently it's very quiet in the comments because you're all mesmerised watching this, which is lovely. Don't forget to let us know that you're there and let us know if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask differently. So you see how that's all starting to come together. Oh, so which lady was that? Dawn has just sent a little message in to say, hands down, thank you, Dawn. This is her best Crafter's Companion purchase ever because of the uninterrupted education that is included with it. Dawn, thank you. I can't tell you how much that is appreciated. It's what we hoped for when we put the range together and obviously is working for you. So I just can't thank you enough for the comment, seriously. Right, there we go, a little bit of crimson. And we've got that beautiful red hair colour, which you can see from here, and the skin colour. I dropped a bit of water there. You won't have a little dropped watermark on yours. Looks like she's got a little tear, doesn't it? She looks a bit sad. Don't bring your water over your image. Keep your water pot away. That is definitely a case of do as I say, not as I do. But you get the idea. So that's how you do your hair with your hair and skin. And that's that colour family worked out for you. Now we're going to have a look at how to do, what am I like for time? I'm not too bad for time, actually. Now we're going to have a look at how to do this, which is the fabulous curly hair with our watercolour. Now, we can do this darker, richer skin tone as well, which we will do because we've done the light skin tone. Let's do the rich one and the curly hair at the same time. So the colours I'm going to need are sandstone. So I've got my sandstone there. That's for the hair. For the skin, I need marigold, which is there, and chocolate. Now, chocolate was in my original box, I believe. There it is. Marigold and chocolate. There we go. And then for the hair, I'm going to use sandstone and chocolate. And then I need blossom, which is here for the cheeks. There we go, for the skin, for my lips and cheeks. And for my hair, I need black as well. Okay, so we've got all of the colours that I need sorted out, which is chocolate, marigold, black, sandstone, and blossom. They're the colours that we're going to use. Say that again, sorry. Okay, can I show you how to lighten up a dark colour if you've gone too heavy? Absolutely I can, it's water. So let's do that on this one. So let's say we'll go in with the marigold. Got my palette there. So here's some marigold. And I'm going to put that onto the hair. Oops, out of the way of pens. Here we are here. Okay, and let's say we've done that and we think, oh no, it's too solid and it's too dark. That's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted at all. I wanted something much lighter. All you've got to do while it's damp or if it's dried is take some of your water. I'm going to show you my water pot again. Take some of your water, dampen your brush, go over the top of it to moisten it. See, it doesn't really change the colour, it moves it around, so just stay where it is. Don't move outside of the area. Clean your brush off. Take your clean kitchen towel, dab, and the colour comes off. So it immediately lightens that colour down for you. So you just go over the top with a little bit more water and dab it away. And to Liam's point, a lot more forgiving than alcohol because it's much more difficult to do that with alcohol. That's why I love watercolours so much. Okay, hope that helps. So we are, it's a huge help apparently, thank you. Right, so we're going to start with the skin. So I'm going to, for the skin, use my marigold and my chocolate and do as I did with sandstone and I can't remember the other colour on the last one. I've forgotten already, what was it? Sandstone and peach on the last one. I'm going to do with marigold and chocolate here because I'm doing a warmer skin tone. So I've got my marigold there and then I've got my chocolate here. And what I'm going to do with my brush is a damp brush and my kitchen towel. Take off the maximum amount of colour, water. Prepare where I'm going to paint with a wash over of water. What I do at that point as well is just do a little dab, so I haven't got too much water on there. You're literally priming the card and not flooding it with water. And then I'm going to mix these two colours together. So this is my marigold and chocolate being mixed together. Test on a scrap piece of card. If you feel that you need to lighten that a little bit, you can add a little bit more marigold. To make sure you're happy with it. Add that in there. Test. That feels I'm much happier with that colour that I've got there now. So now I'm going to take a tiny bit of that and then just straight onto the skin. Now you are mixing a new colour, so always keep testing. You can see the difference between the two, just adding a little bit more marigold in there. You can make it darker by adding a little bit more of the chocolate in, if that's what you want to do. And of course you can build up the intensity. You see I'm just dragging that around on the face there. So you can go from the lighter end of this richer skin tone, or you could go up to the much darker end of that skin tone by just how many layers of the colour you put down or how much of the colour you put in, how much of the chocolate. So we can darken that up with some more chocolate if we want to. And then I'm going to take a little bit more. You see we're just starting to build up the layers. So it's darker in her hairband, around the side of her face there, under her neck. So we start to layer that up. Preserving the highlight in the centre of the face. Spread that out with a dry brush. I think she's looking pretty beautiful already. I don't think she needs much more done to her. But if I wanted that skin tone to be a much darker skin tone, as you can see here, the choice is yours. You can just add a little bit more chocolate in. So it's great with the watercolour because you can truly customise the colour that you're using. See that there? And then customise the shade that you're using to get the exact replica of the tone that you want, which I think for watercolouring different ethnicities like this is phenomenal because you can mix the exact shade that you want, which I think is wonderful. There we go. And then a final little wash over her nose, still preserving the highlight. And her skin is looking beautiful. And that was very, very quick to do. And then we'll take a little bit of the blossom. And we'll give her some lovely rosy, peachy undertone to her blush there. Just a base skin colour. She's beautiful, isn't she? And then we're going to go with a nice bright, she's off to a party, a nice bright lip. And there she is, she's done. And that's how quick that was with those watercolour markers. Now that was for her skin. For her hair, we're going to do a very similar thing, but for her hair we're going to use sandstone and we're going to chocolate, here we go, and then we'll do a bit of black. Now the difference with this is, to get the texture in her hair, we're not going to start with a paintbrush, we're going to start with the marker and we're going directly straight to the cardstock. And we're going to do the letter M's as we did before, preserving our highlight. when you get to 12 o'clock, change direction and do W's. Coming back the other way. Do exactly the same now with chocolate. And you're kind of going in the gaps but not fully. So letter M, so the letter M's are smaller. That would be a good way of describing it to you. Letter M's are smaller. And then when you get to 12 o'clock, stop and go and do W's. Okay, so we've got that there. And then we've got tiny little bits. I'm going to come back to the black in a second. I'm not going to do that now. And then dampen your brush. And remember, we did this technique when we did the self-stamping with a flower in our second class, in the watercolour class, which is stippling. And that's just pouncing the brush. So you're dampening your brush so it's damp. And now we do this. Might need a little bit more water. And it will mix it for you on the page. And we'll start to move. As if like magic. And then a bit more water, just stippling. So all I'm doing here is pouncing the brush, nothing more. Pouncing, pouncing, pouncing. That gets the colour moving. And then I want more of the sandstone undertone. So what I can do now is with my sandstone on the palette, is pick that up and do the pouncing with the sandstone. What that starts to do is blend in the chocolate and give more of that sandstone colour in between. You can see that there. And I actually really want a much richer tone in there. So I'm just looking at what I've got. Yeah, I'm going to go and use, I want a warmer undertone. So I'm going to keep doing that with that, which is great. Then I want to go much warmer. So I'm going to use the tawny from the original box. Pick up a bit of the tawny. Look at the difference that makes. Just adding that warmer colour in between. And it's literally dabbing it there, dabbing it here. It's little dabby motions that you're doing, not actual colouring. Huge difference in that. I like that warm undertone in there. It was all looking a bit flat before. So if you're wanting to warm something up, you go with a warm colour. Sorry, what was that, Taylor? Yeah, makes our face look a bit brighter. It has. There we go. I'm liking that in there. So that's with my tawny I've put in there. And then what we can do is take a bit of the chocolate and a bit of our black. And with the chocolate and black, so I get like a darker, take a tiny bit of black into the chocolate, not a lot. I'm then going to go in and stipple in the areas. Pick that up. It's just some extra depth. So that picks out the darker tones in there. And it really starts to give you the difference between the light and dark areas, which is what you want in natural curls. The light hits it in so many different places in so many different ways, and in such a random way, you never need to worry about colouring curls perfectly. And as one who's lived with that trauma all of her life, I can let you know that curls are always random. There we go. So just by adding a little bit of that black in with that lovely tawny undertone, you now get that natural looking, beautiful light and shade in her hair. Now you can see where I've been using my water a lot. Look how it's bled into her headband. I didn't worry about that because it's fixable. And it's fixable by taking your water, exactly as we've just done with the lightning, adding that water on the headband, going in with your kitchen towel and picking it up. So you're deleting by adding water and going in with your kitchen towel. And it'll pick it up. There we go. And her face, I feel now that blush has just gone a little bit too much. I want to tone that down. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of my sandstone colour. Just a tiny bit on a practically dry brush. And I'm just going to tone it down. Look at the difference. Makes a huge difference. Okay, so that's how you do your curly hair and your richer skin tone with your watercolour markers. And then when you follow your clothing tutorial that we did on the second class, and you colour in her headband and her tunic, then that's what you will have when you are finished. And of course we're going to upload those instructions for you and those colours, so you've got them all to work with. All right, so that was curly hair and richer skin tone aqua marker. I'm going to, we've done this one already in the second class. So a comment coming in to say I'm the Bob Ross of watercolour and a happy accident corrected. You could not have given me a better compliment if you tried. I am a huge fan of Bob Ross. My entire family is my husband, my son and myself. If my son ever goes to a fancy dress party, he goes as Bob Ross. He has the paint palette, the paintbrushes and the wig. And we love him. We just absolutely love him. We think he's fantastic. So thank you very much for that. Now, this one I'm just going to upload for you because I showed you how to do this in the second class with hair, etc. So you're going to do exactly the same as we've done preserving highlights. The face is the same. I just wanted to give you the placement of the colours and the colours that I've used. That's going to be there for you. We've got this one as well, which is our skin tone and then the darker hair. And you can see the placement of the colours, exactly the same as the two examples I've just shown you. Dress was done in the second class, but we've got all of the colours there and we've got the map for you to follow, so you'll be able to do that. And then finally, we've got this one here, which is, again, we've shown you how to do the hair, we've shown you how to do the skin, and you learned how to do the clothes in the first one. But what I wanted to do was get the colours and the maps in place for you so I could upload them. And that, I believe, is everything, guys. So I've done not bad sticking to the 2 hours, keeping you here. I think that hasn't been bad at all. I will promise to get all of that stuff uploaded for you onto the Academy of Colour website. Please do go into the Facebook group and share your progress, show us what you're doing. Ask any questions in there of me, the other experts, and your fellow class students. I've really enjoyed this couple of hours with you. If there's anything else you want to know at the end of the class, do pop your comments in our Facebook group. We'll all get in there and try and help you. And then keep coming back to the Academy of Colour website, because the next date for the next auto ship, which is, let's have a look at the folder and tell you as a little reminder. Next auto ship is, Flora and Fauna, and it is a beautiful auto ship, let me tell you. So the date for that will go up onto the Academy of Colour website, and we're hoping that's getting to you sometime in July, I believe, which will be brilliant. And then of course we'll do another one of these 2-hour sessions where we look at alcohol and watercolouring with whatever we've got in your Flora and Fauna auto ship for you. Apparently lots and lots of thank yous are coming in the comments, so that is wonderful, and really a big thank you from me to you for taking the time out of your day. It's really precious time to spend these 2 hours with me. It really does mean a lot, and I hope you get to really enjoy your journey with this brand new auto ship that you've got in the Portrait collection. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you all manage to do now with your alcohol and your watercolouring and the portraiture stamps that we've put in there for you. So from me for now, don't forget to be in the Facebook group. Keep checking back the Academy of Colour website for the date for the next education session on Flora and Fauna, and keep engaged with us on Facebook, and we'll be in there to help you. So for now, a big crafty love and hug from me, and enjoy the rest of your morning, day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are and whatever time in the world and whenever you're watching. Thanks very much. Bye.